We aren't here to talk about safety records, fuel efficiency, or seat mile costs. Today, we are answering the only question that matters in aviation. What is the best-looking airliner ever built? It's the Airbus A350. The 747? Overrated. Concorde? Disqualified. If you think that sounds insane, you are about to find out if the Queen can actually hold on to her crown. But before we reach the fine art, we have to look at the appliances that failed the audition. Right now, the comments are already forming tribes. Team 747 is ready to defend 50 years of nostalgia. The Concorde cult thinks this is rigged. Half of you are screaming, "Where is the 757?" Here's the truth. You're confusing famous with beautiful. Today we're ignoring history, purging the appliances, and finding the one airplane that actually has a soul. One winner. And I promise you, this gets controversial. Category 1, the appliances. Let's execute the whale. The Airbus A380. Engineering miracle. 2 full decks, room for over 500 passengers. And visually, an absolute tragedy. It looks like a dolphin with a thyroid problem. Because of that massive double-deck cross-section, the fuselage has all the elegance of a loaf of bread. The windows look like tiny pinpricks on a vast featureless wall of white composite. But the real issue is the proportions of the aft fuselage. On the 747, the lines converge into a graceful taper. On the A380, the upper deck maintains its bulk so far back that the tail section looks swollen. It lacks any grace in the butt, forcing that massive vertical stabilizer to look like it was simply stuck onto the top of a wide-body bus. It is a flying apartment block. The A380 is out. But that brings us to the real problem. The aircraft everyone thinks will win, but shouldn't. The Boeing 747. For 50 years, she's been the default answer. The queen of the skies, iconic, legendary, timeless. But here's the question no one wants to ask. Is she actually beautiful? Look at her objectively. The hump is iconic, yes, but it's an industrial solution to a cargo problem. The upper deck exists because Boeing needed to load freight through the nose. It's functional, not aesthetic. The 747 is a masterpiece of the industrial age, but you can see how it was built. It is a machine made of distinct sections, the hump, the wing box, the engines, that don't quite flow into a single shape. It is beautiful the way a muscle car is beautiful, with raw power and visible engineering that screams industrial project rather than sculpture. She was built by draftsmen with rulers who cared about cargo, not artists with clay who cared about curves. She survives for now, but the throne is shaking. We are moving past the appliances and into the category no one talks about, the flying pencils. Some jets took their length to the absolute extreme. When you see them from the side, they do not look like airplanes, they look like accidents. Category 2, the stretch. Some jets took their length to the absolute extreme. Take the Douglas DC-8 Super 60 series, specifically the Dash 61 and Dash 63. This is nearly 200 feet of narrow-body tube. It is so absurdly long that pilots joked it would snap in half during a heavy storm or a rough landing. From a distance, it loses the proportions of an airplane. It is just a giant white cigar with wings. But look closer at the stance. Because the fuselage is so long, the landing gear looks like it belongs on a much smaller aircraft. It gives the jet this fragile, spindly look, like a stick insect trying to carry a heavy load. It is impressive to look at, but it lacks the balance required for fine art. The DC-8 is out. Then Airbus said, "Hold my wine." They gave us the A340-600. At 247 feet long, it was the longest airliner on Earth when it launched, beating even the 747-400. It looks like someone forgot to turn off the stretching machine. The The fuselage is so absurdly long that it requires a heavy four-wheel bogie under the center of the belly just to distribute the weight of that massive frame. It is functional and it is capable, but beautiful? No, it is out. The pencils are gone, but one narrow-body jet refuses to leave. It has a cult following that is about to storm the comments. Category 3. The athlete. The Boeing 757. The last analog sports car of the skies. Pilots call it a rocket. Fans call it the best narrow body ever built. Visually, it's honest. Look at the stature. It stands tall and lean on the tarmac. While other jets look like they are hugging the ground, the 757 looks like it is on stilts. It has an aggressive, high-clearance look that screams performance. Most people think this was some high-performance engineering requirement, but the real reason is a brilliant piece of corporate optimization, pilot commonality. Boeing wanted this jet and the much larger 767 to feel the same to a pilot. To keep the cockpit height the same, they propped this thin jet up on a very long spindly gear. From the side, it looks lean, but from the front, it is a mess. You see a thin tube with two massive engines that look like they were stolen from a much larger plane. It looks like a weightlifter who skipped leg day, but has chest muscles the size of a Toyota Corolla. It is a study in power, not art. The 757 survives for now, but we are not here to judge brute force. We're looking for sculpture. If you think I'm being too hard on the Ferrari of the skies, hit the like button and let me know in the comments. We're just getting to the top 3. And if you want more technical teardowns that value engineering over nostalgia, make sure you're subscribed. And that means leaving the narrow bodies behind and entering the era when engineers actually had the freedom to make jets look like art. Category 4. The Tri-Jets. The 1970s gave us 3 engines because the regulations at the time restricted twin-engine jets from many overwater routes. So manufacturers stuck a 3rd engine somewhere. The DC-10 looks like the engineers forgot the 3rd engine and bolted it onto the tail as an afterthought. There's no integration, no flow, it's clumsy, it's out. Let's look at the Lockheed L1011 TriStar. This is where everything changes. Lockheed used an S-duct to feed the center engine. Instead of hanging it outside like the DC-10, they buried it deep inside the tail. The air goes in at the base of the tail and curves through a perfect S shape. This was insanely difficult to build. The duct had to maintain perfectly smooth airflow through those opposing curves, any turbulence at all, and the engine would surge. Lockheed basically had to handcraft each one. But the result? Perfection. Because the engine was buried, the tail could be sleek. The vertical stabilizer didn't need to support a massive external engine, it could just flow. The entire rear fuselage became this unified sculpted form. It didn't look like parts bolted together, it looked like it was carved from a single block of metal. But the TriStar was too perfect. It was overbuilt and late to the market. Lockheed lost billions and only built 250 jets. Beauty does not always win the war of the balance sheets, but for us, the TriStar moves forward. Category 5. The Soul. Where is Concorde? Disqualified. Before the Concorde cult storms the comments, here is why. Using Concorde in a beauty contest is cheating. It is a supersonic needle. Every line, curve, and angle is dictated by Mach 2. Take the OG Delta wing. That was not an artistic choice. It is the only wing shape that makes enough lift at low speeds while cutting drag at twice the speed of sound. Then there is the droop nose. It exists because the nose is so long that pilots cannot see the runway during landing. When your design is forced by shock waves and area ruling, beauty is not a choice. It is physics wearing a tuxedo. We are looking for the best-looking subsonic workhorse where engineers had the freedom to make choices for style. Concorde is in a league of its own. For this contest, it is out. Can a modern jet have a soul? The Boeing 787 tried. It has swept wings, raked wingtips, and sculpted nacelles. but it feels calculated, like a committee made something safe. It is brilliant, but visually forgettable. Then there's the Airbus A350. Look at the face. That black composite panel around the cockpit windows. At first glance, it looks like a design gimmick. It's not. It's a functional solution for thermal uniformity, maintaining consistent temperature across the window seals, preventing stress and reducing maintenance. But Airbus did not just slap it on, they sculpted it. On older jets, the nose is a series of flat plates and notched frames. Here, the geometry is fluid. The flat glass panes for the pilots are housed in a frame with continuous curves. It creates the illusion of a single wraparound visor. The result is a predator's gaze that looks focused, aggressive, and alive. Now look at the rest of the aircraft. The fuselage curves smoothly into the wing. The entire body flows into the wing in one unified shape. Even the winglets are not separate parts. They are blended extensions that curve gracefully toward the sky to kill drag. This is the difference. The 747 was a collection of brilliant parts, but you can see the seams. The A350 does not look like it was assembled from a kit. Because of those composite curves, it looks like it was grown in a lab. Category 6, the winner. So, 3 finalists. The Icon, the 747. Legendary, historic, a collection of brilliant parts. The Sculpture, the L1011 TriStar. Elegant, refined, killed by its own perfection. The Predator, the A350. Organic, aggressive, the jet that looks alive. Most would give the trophy to the 747 out of fear, out of respect, or nostalgia. But we must stop confusing history with aesthetics. The 747 is a masterpiece of the industrial age, but you can see how it was built. It is a machine made of distinct sections, the hump, the wing box, the engines, that do not quite flow into a single shape. The TriStar is sculpture, pure intentional design. But it is a static masterpiece from a bygone era. It is smooth, refined, and polite, but it is ultimately passive. It lacks the tension of a modern jet. It is a relic of 1970s elegance that looks like it was designed to be admired in a museum, not to hunt through the clouds. The A350, for the first time in aviation history, we have an airliner that looks organic. Every surface transitions smoothly from the nose to the tail. That raccoon mask gives it personality and presence, a gaze that follows you. The 747 is the queen. She ruled for 50 years with absolute authority. But even the most glorious monarchs eventually have to retire to a quiet hangar in the desert. The throne has changed hands. The Airbus A350 is the best-looking jet airliner ever built. Now go to the comments and tell us why we're wrong.